Welcome back. My name is Nick, and I have Kyle here with me. Pecos with a zero on Instagram. He's a super talented artist. Go give him a follow. By the way, he also helps design a lot of our cool shirts. So if you go to AsArt.space, you can find cool shirts there. We're working on some Dune stuff. It looks pretty sick. We even have some posters, hopefully, in the work too. So go check it out at AsArt.space or bestnerdyshirts.com.
There you go.
Yeah. And
wow, is that the first plug for that?
I think it's the first plug for the
nice,
best nerdy
dude.
shirts.
All right.
And on that note, today we're going to be talking about the Bene Gesserit from Dune. So this is going to be a deep dive here. We're going to talk about how they go behind the scenes and with their webs of connection, and they try to get into the right families so they can organize their place in the future of the Bene Gesserits taking control of everything. But does Paul throw a wrench into the plans? Let's go, Bene Gesserit deep dive. Woo!
Wow, you really set us up there, Nick. All right, yeah. This is going to be
spoilers just in case if you haven't read the books or watched the movies.
Right. So this is going to be a thick, meaty, sloppy Joe of a deep dive because there is a lot to cover with the Bene Gesserit. So just as an overview, the Bene Gesserit order is like this ancient organization, right? So privately, they deny being a religious order, but they operate behind this almost insane smokescreen of ritual, mysticism, and like constructed mythology. So like the sisterhood consists of like all women spies, nuns and scientists and theologians who use genetic experimentation, like political influence and religious engineering to further their true agenda of ascending the human race with the advent of their chosen one, the Kwisatz Haderach. So their objectives and actions are like they form like a critical element in the evolution of humanity, according to them, right? And it seems like they're doing pretty good so far.
Yeah.
Person's going to come up again in this deep dive, but essentially he's like a male Bene Gesserit who is essentially like a messiah figure, right? And he's essentially going to be the one to lead humanity with his prescient abilities to steer the course into the future forever, right?
Yes. It's like they're Jesus Christ.
Yes, essentially, yes. But better. No. Okay. So a little bit of the origins of the Bene Gesserit. So first off, like how they formed, like the origins of the Bene Gesserit it's not widely known, right? In the universe of Dune, right? So like what was clear is that they rose to become a political force in the turmoil that followed the Butlerian Jihad. Now in the movies, this is called a crusade, like a crusade and stuff like that. In the books, it's much more like Middle Eastern terminology in terms of like what happened. So there was a holy war against, in the Butlerian Jihad was a holy war against the machines because AIs rose up and tried to take over humanity. So what the Bene Gesserit did is they banded a group of women. So, this is how they formed. So there was a few different groups involved. So they banded. Now, this is going out to the comments because this is the one that I had the most trouble tracking down the specifics of, right? So they banded a group of women called the Sorceresses, which existed from before the Jihad, with an organization of religious leaders who came together to share their views after the Jihad's horrors, right? So this is where the Orange Catholic Bible came from, right? Okay. If you guys are familiar with that in Dune. And then this was facilitated by another group called the Embryo Sisterhood. And so essentially soon they had formed and established the core hierarchical structure of what would be the Bene Gesserit by the time of what was called the Battle of Corin, which was 20 years after the Jihad ended. So
a lot of backstory.
So that's kind of, yeah. And so then like what's interesting is like the other memories that are made available to like Reverend Mothers in the order, they provide a wealth of knowledge that reach far back into humanity's past when like humans were still bound to Earth.
Oh wow.
Right. So what's interesting is they use these like physical anchor points. So like for instance, they have a remnant of they have a surviving painting by Van Gogh. So basically it supports this connection and provides like an anchor point to the distant past so they can project their thoughts and like access past voices. So yeah, it's really interesting. So then now, like, that's their origins. Now this is more of their rise as like a galactic influence, right? Where they're like on the big playing stage. So like for millennia, like the Bene Gesserit like have chosen to like exercise their power by acting in the background of like imperial politics. So through their breeding program, their placement of agents in the imperial court and great houses, and they also provide various services, right? So for nobility and like royalty and stuff. So like the training of noble females, mediation in disputes,
And
right?
only females too, right?
Yes, so we'll get to the
Okay.
very specifics of that soon. So they mediate disputes. They oversee negotiations, and then they're also silent partners in Chom along with the Bene Playlax. So that's kind of interesting. And then this now, of course, this all changes when House Atreides wrests the imperial throne from House Carino. This is a little past current from where we are in the movie right now.
Okay.
So that's the spoiler right there. And then, of course, this would later give way to the time of the Honored Maiders, but that is getting a bit too far ahead of current events.
Yes.
So moving on, let's go a little bit more into like their objectives. Like, what are they all about? What do they want? What are they trying to do? Okay.
What are they trying to do?
Yeah. So the primary objective of the Bene Gesserit was to attain further power and influence and like help to direct humanity along a path of insight and stability. So and this is facilitated by the Kwisatz Haderach, right? So the one who can be all places at once. He's a male Bene Gesserit, or like Reverend Mother Superior, right? Essentially a super being and ultimately a messiah figure to serve the Missionaria Protectiva, right? The ultimate objective of their age-old breeding program, right? So like what their breeding program is working to produce is the Kwisatz Haderach, right?
Which kind of doesn't go to their plan.
Yes, and that's the thing. So the triumph of their plan was supposed to occur when the daughter of Leto Atreides the First, right, was bred with Fade Routha Harkonnen.
Oh, Harkonnen too. Oh, okay.
Yes, but what happened was this happened one generation too early because Lady Jessica decided to go against the sisterhood.
Yeah, because she
give
believed, right?
Give birth to a son. Yeah.
She believed it was going to be her son.
It just shows you what true love can do, Foil the plans of a millennia old organization.
And then we also have a video too talking about the power of the voice. And in that video too, we talk about how like Lady Jessica also taught Paul the power of the voice without the Bene Gesserits knowing, and other skills and abilities. So when they came to give him the test and stuff, it was like he's already been trained. They were really pissed at Lady Jessica. They were just like,
oh yeah,
they were like, I'm here. I was here. Now I'm here.
Yeah. So like that's the thing. So like Paul was assumed to be the Kwisatz Haderach, and much to the dismay of the Bene Gesserit, like arrived, like I said, like a generation too soon, right? So like whether the order could have fully controlled the Kwisatz Haderach, is debatable, right?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. But we do know because of the way he was brought up, he was not under their control.
That's true. He was able to, because
he was
that's
a
the thing.
Card.
If he is trained in the Bene Gesserit, he is trained to resist the voice.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing in their training.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get to that actually.
Yeah.
So now here's a little bit of their credo, and I'm going to try and do my best old woman voice.
Okay, let's go for it.
Because I'm assuming this is from a
old woman,
a mother superior, right? So
don't make it sound like a Monty Python woman voice.
Dude, you can't just say that to me. I don't know what I'm going to.
It's awesome.
Religion is the emulation of the adult by the child. Religion is the insistment of past beliefs. Mythology, which is guesswork, the hidden assumptions of trust in the universe, those pronouncements which men have made in search of personal power, all of it mingled with shreds of enlightenment. And always the ultimate unspoken commandment is, thou shalt not question. But we question. We break that commandment as a matter of course. We work to which we have set ourselves is the liberating of the imagination, the harnessing of imagination to humankind's deepest sense of creativity. So that's pretty cool. Like, I was like, when I read that, I was like, fuck, I'm down, you know? So now after that, we're going to go into their basic structure a bit. So we're going to go from lowest to highest.
Okay.
Right. So, first off, though, women like unquestionably rule the Bene Gesserit order.
Yes.
Now, men do maintain some important roles, but they are always answerable to at least one woman. Right. And this is typically the Reverend Mother Superior, which is the head honcho of all Bene Gesserit.
And that's the one that comes to test Mark. Or not Mark. Oh my gosh. I'm stuck on Severance. Paul.
No, that is, so we'll actually go into that. She's actually a Reverend Mother.
Oh, because the one that tests, the main
You're talking about Gaius Helen Mohiam.
Yeah, the main one is with the Emperor.
So, yes, but
right?
Well, actually, that's it. So I'll get into that.
Spoilers? Is that too far for me?
No. It's already like, but I'll also get into that too. So, because she's actually a truth sayer. There's a branch off from that. But yeah, so you start off first as an initiate, right? You're just a gal, a noble woman, preferably, right? Just fresh out of the noble houses, right? Then you're a sister. So these comprise of agents, concubines, potential wives. Lady Jessica is one of these, right? And then there's a truth sayer. This seems to be sort of like a branch, not necessarily like another hierarchical rung, but so like
and
they're taught in the way.
And a truth sayer can tell if someone's lying.
Yes, correct? Yeah, they're taught in the ways to invoke the truth, what's called the truth trance. And so now the Emperor has one of these on hand, the Padishah Emperor.
Is she whispering the truth back to him?
see, that's the thing, right? Because they have their own ends, right? So it's all a manipulation, right? Then there are the Proctor Superiors. So they're in charge of what's called a chapter house. And each chapter house has a Proctor Superior. And now for any of you hardcore Dune fans, you will notice that is a part of the 6th title in the Dune series, Chapter House Dune. So, and then there's the Reverend Mothers, which are kind of like, they're like the main middle managers of this stuff, right? So like they're in charge of, or like they're one of the most diverse roles. So like they deal with intelligence gathering, diplomacy, coordinate efforts to further the objectives of the breeding program. They can also like pursue more menial roles, but their genetic makeup determines whichever occupation or role that might be, right? So a lot of, they have a breeding program, so of course they're going to have a genetic preference for certain things, because that's what they do.
That's what they do.
Yeah, so Reverend Mothers have undergone the spice agony and survived. So in order to become a Reverend Mother, you have to undergo the spice agony and come out alive.
So,
right?
Quick question. I'm guessing their religion or their belief wouldn't have started without spice. Is spice
correct? It is tied
into their...
Yes.
Okay.
It is a central pillar of that. So that's the thing. While we don't necessarily cover that specific element, you'll notice certain things in here that are spice related, that are like key components of how they enact like their like influence. So like again, the Reverend Mothers fulfill like they're like advisors, faculty, historians, geneticists, right? A whole bunch of stuff. So like general authority of the order for most members and the outside, and like they're like the general authority of the order for most members of the Bene Gesserit and the outside populace, right? So Gaius Helen Mohiam was a Reverend Mother. And so she's the one that came to test Paul, right? Which makes sense because she would be, like they're the ones you contact for that stuff. And then the next one above that is the Kwisatz Mother. So she possesses the strongest tie to the other voices. And what I mean by the voices is that mothers, like Mother Superiors and Reverend Mother Superiors have all of the cumulative voices of past Reverend Mothers guiding them.
Oh,
right?
Wow. So it's kind of like the Avatar state. They can connect to past lives.
Yes, they can connect to past lives and past like consciousnesses and stuff. So the Kwisatz Mother.
Is that what happens to Lady Jessica?
So no, that's what happens to
daughter.
Paul's sister.
Yes. her daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, her daughter. Yes. And so the Kwisatz mother possesses the strongest tie to the other voices. Like, so she's in charge of the program to breed the Kwisatz Haderach. So she solely directs the breeding program. Now, I can only imagine what Lady Jessica did. The Kwisatz mother was probably like, God damn it. Like, just like
she had like, Charlie from It's Always Sunny. She has the whole list and everything going on. She's like, she like freaks out with the one, the one wrench in the plan. It's like, waste.
Yes. And then finally there is the Don Corleone of the entire organization, the Reverend Mother Superior. So she maintains ultimate control of the entire order, and she invokes almost unquestioned loyalty among the subordinate Reverend Mothers. Wow. So like a Reverend Mother Superior chooses her successor prior to her death and then imparts her memories and personality to the successor, right? So like the inheritance of the Reverend Mother Superiors at times like diverged among multiple Reverend Mothers sometimes.
Oh, wow.
Usually for strategic reasons because they have to compartmentalize information, that's like CIA level stuff. Like that's nuts.
Makes sense though, if they're trying to control the narrative.
Yep. And that is a power, I believe, only like held by either Reverend Mother Superiors and Reverend Mothers, right? So so now on to their powers and abilities, which quite a bit. They're like pretty much superhuman.
And on one of them's the voice, and we've done a breakdown on the voice, but you can give them a brief overview if you want.
Yes, we will mention it in brief, yes. So the Bene Gesserit schools are designed to like maximize the physical and mental potential of humanity, right? Especially females. And as a result, Bene Gesserit adepts possess like abilities that can't be rivaled by anyone else in the known universe. So like they're supreme in the disciplines of what's called Prana Bindu. And it's the results of this training, like have numerous abilities, and most of them include this. So in terms of bodily control, Prana, one of the main tenets of Prana Bindu is they have maximum control over their body. So they have alteration of their blood flow.
Wow.
They can control their muscles and nerves, right down to the individual fibers. They can regulate body temperature, heart rate, and level of consciousness for the purpose of like survival in harsh environments or escaping from bonds at will, which is nuts.
Which is why they can change their X and Y chromosomes, basically.
Right. We're actually going to get into that. That's actually a specific subset.
Oh, okay.
And then oral analysis. So upon tasting an item, a Bene Gesserit can like break down the food into its ingredients right down to the chemical composition. They can be like, I taste a little bit of cyanide, trace amounts,
or time,
or time, or oregano,
whatever,
who knows? Yeah,
basil,
yeah, or like whatever chemically comprises basil. I don't know. And then another bodily ability is internal organic chemical control. So like this means they can alterate their metabolism to render poisons harmless. And this ability is used when potential Reverend Mothers took the water of life, right? Which is a part of the spice agony. Yeah. And Lady Jessica, spoiler alert,
we'll see
this is what she does
in the second Dune
to undergo it. Yes, yeah. And to also give birth.
And it's in the 1984 version. We see it. We see it in the 1980. I think it's 1984. In the 80s version, we see it in the 80s.
Yeah, but who cares about that one? No, sorry, David Lynch. I think your other movies are great. Just not your Dune one. Then another one is the weirding way. So this is like a martial art, right? So like Bene Gesserit like train men and women like that are like unrivaled in their fighting abilities with this thing. So only Imperial Sardaukar and Fremen on Arrakis can even begin to approach the abilities of a Bene Gesserit in regards to combat techniques, right? And their attack speed and their resourcefulness. So like the weirding way in the books is interesting. Like I don't think they really showed it in the movies too much, right? I wish they would have showed it a little bit more because like it's almost like you blip. It's like you're there and then you're there. And people don't see it happen.
So
and
it's
you're
like
just
full
in their
on
face.
Naruto, how quick they can move around,
just like
kind of thing.
Yeah, it's nuts. Um, and then, of course, one of the more popular Bene Gesserit abilities, the voice, right? So it's the ability to influence people directly by giving them orders with a certain sound frequency.
Yeah.
So when a person is ordered to do something by the use of a voice, it's next to impossible not to comply, right? Now, of course, the Bene Gesserit are trained to resist the voice. The downside of it is if the entire population becomes immune to it, like the entire population can become immune to it if the voice is being overly used, right?
Oh.
So this is specific. Specifically, mentats can especially become immune to the voice if they understand how it works. They can like analytically break it down and be like, "I know what's going on here," and become immune. Which, pretty neat. We'll have to cover the mentats.
Got to
at some
use it
point, too.
wisely then.
Yes. So and that's the thing. Also, I believe another caveat is you can't have too many complex instructions with the voice. It's usually very simple commands, like kill him or drink the water, right? Or give me that, right? That sort of thing. Another ability is truth sensing, and this is this is mainly held by truthsayers, but there's also other like subsets of it that is held by typical Bene Gesserit. So truthsayers are trained to sense if someone is telling the truth or not. But the other Bene Gesserit can also spot this if someone is holding something back. So an example of this is with Dr. Yue, right? Lady Jessica could tell that he was holding something back, though she didn't know what. But, and it's crazy in the books too, because you get all the subtext. Dr. Yue, in order to throw her off, brings up memories of his wife that she's being held captive by Baron Harkonnen, right? And it muddles his feelings to feel something else, so it throws Lady Jessica off as to what he's actually feeling. So it kind of, and I'm just like, oh, I love that minutia, right?
Yes.
Like that was, So truth sensing. And then one of the bigger ones, in my opinion, is fertility control. Basically, they have the ability of immaculate conception, which is insane. So like Bene Gesserit are able to control their own fertility. So they can choose when to get pregnant. They can choose the gender of their child, should I say the sex of their child, in order to produce children when and where the order wishes.
Wow.
Following the Bene Gesserit breeding program, right?
Super soldiers.
Exactly. And this is why this is how they're building the Kwisatz Haderach, right? And then some of their mental abilities, right, is consciousness alteration. So their mind can be quickly directed into a state of calm for the sake of like relaxation, right? And like meditation. And then it can also be brought into hyper alertness in times of potential danger, right? And then another thing is, and I think we mentioned this on the last episode we did this, Nick, is petite perception, which is a French term, I believe.
Yes.
Basically, this means that they can monitor minutia in others to detect like concealed emotions, motivations, agendas, or even just physical things such as like concealed weapons or like a false accent or surgery or like just deception in general, right? So like this particular skill was like super useful in detecting face dancers, which are a Tleilaxu organization. Because they can change their face at will. But Bene Gesserit can be like,
That's
I know
not
your tricks.
face. Yeah.
That's not your face, man.
Arya
Don't
Stark.
call me your man, guy. Yeah. Exactly. And that is our big heap and sloppy Joe of Bene Gesserit.
I mean, I feel like we can go deep dive on each one of their powers. Like we already did the voice, but I feel like we can go even in more detail with everything.
Yeah.
And comment down below if you would like that. We got a lot of good comments from the last video of the voice that we did, breaking down stuff like that. So let us know. We're here to discuss Dune for a long time because I know the show's it's going to be a while before we get all the movies in. I mean, I think they're doing a 3-part. I don't. Is it a 2-part or a 3-part?
I thought it was 2-part, but I could be wrong. They might be doing the 3-part for the second book for Dune Messiah, maybe.
Okay.
Who knows?
I don't know. I can definitely be wrong, but subscribe. We're going to have all the Dune content here. And if you're a big fan of Dune, I would follow Kyle on Instagram. He's really big into sci-fi. He does really cool art. So I would go to Instagram, Pecos with a Zero. He's a super talented artist. And he's also helping us design some cool Dune shirts for us to wear here for the channel. We have a whole dedicated Dune primer kind of theme going on with our channel where we do deep dives on the houses and the voice, and now we're deep diving into characters. We actually just did one deep diving into Frank's like ideas and where he got the ideas for the development for Dune, and laying the groundwork for basic philosophies within the world of Dune and stuff like that. So I would subscribe if I were you, if you're into Dune. Kyle's here to guide us through the sand and to dodge some sandworms, hopefully. Unless the Bene Gesserit want to take a sandworm on a different world. Yes, I know that's spoilers for other books, and I'm going to stop there, and we'll see you on the next AsArt.
Ooh. Dang, yeah, dude, that was a huge spoiler. Taking the sandworms elsewhere. Dang. Dropping that bombshell.